Hey, this is our second video, and this time for our multiples of 10, hundreds or thousands, we're going to focus on the division tricks of the trades. So we saw that we could do cancelling out and restoring, or remove temporarily the zeros and add them back on again for the multiplication. With the divide, you need to be a little bit more careful, but what you can do is cancel out zeros and not add them back in again at the end. So 200 divided by 40, we can say, oh, there's a 0 here and there's a 0 there. Well, if we're talking about tens and hundreds, we can actually just get rid of those, and the whole sum becomes 20 divided by 4, because the same amount of 4s going into 20 will be the same as 40 going into 200 if you just remove a 0 from either side. So now all we have to worry about is 20 divided by 4, and knowing our times table again helps, and we know that 5 groups of 4 is 20. That's our backtrack, so it must be 5. So the answer to 200 divided by 40 is 5, and that makes sense because 40, if you keep counting in 40s, you would eventually get up to 200 if you counted 5 times. Now when you've only got zeros on one side, you can then use the trick or the temporary removal of the zeros to work out the problem. Now in this case here, if I took off these 2 zeros, I'd then have 3 divided by 5. And we know that 5 doesn't go into 3 at all, it's too large. So we would only in this case take away 1 0 to make it easier for us. And we can add that 0 back on after we're finished. So now the problem just becomes 30 divided by 5, or how many times does 5 go into 30? And knowing our times tables, we can know that 5 times 6 is 30. So therefore the answer is 6, but that's only 5 going into 30 6 times. And now that we took off that 0, we can add the 0 back on, and therefore 5 goes into 360 times. When you have a number that can go into the number an even amount of times, for example 4 can go into 8 twice, then we can actually remove both the zeros this time. Apologies, my children were making a lot of noise. So you can cancel out the 2 zeros this time because 4 does go into 8 an even amount of times. It goes into there twice. Whereas up here, the 5 doesn't go into the 3. We had to kind of make that a 2-digit one there to go in. So now that we know 4 goes into 8 twice, that's kind of the answer. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And because we took off 2 zeros this time, we need to put on 2 zeros on the end. So 4 goes into 8 200 times. And that's basically it. Just need to remember and really check the amount of zeros, and also again just double check and think, is that really right? And kind of have an estimate before you do all of these.